Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic / Non-Classic. This episode is 681 and Doubleshot number 584. Two DC trades for this one, and both of them feature Batman, surprisingly. First up, it's Detective Comics, Volume 6, Fall of the Batman. When you look at this cover, like, my apologies for that. Those who look at this cover, like, okay, where's the Rebirth logo? Well, 7 months ago, DC discontinued the whole Rebirth thing and just basically put DC Universe in. Though the initiative is still going forward, with the series still publishing, this series, as far as I can tell, also, I should point out, though, this is the second last trade to collect issues from Jane Tenieth's run. Why? Because he left after issue 681. Actually, 981, yep. Yeah, this book contains Detective Comics issues number 969 to 974. My guess is the next trade probably collect the last 7 issues of the thing. Plus the annual. This is technically annual. This is the third volume annual. Let's see. I'm trying to remember. I think this is annual number. I know there's not been that many annuals published for Detective. No, there really isn't, surprisingly. Unlike, let's say, Batman, which has published like 30, almost like 40 annuals so far, which is by far the highest number of annuals for a series. Detective Comics has published about the same number of annuals that Action Comics has, and yet this is one of the two longest running comic books published by DC Comics, and yet Batman's the one that's had more annuals published. Yep. Let's see here. Here we go. Let's see. 12 plus 3, that's 15. This is actually the 16th annual of the series. Yeah. Fall of the Batman. I think a lot of people kind of knew this storyline was happening, and this comes right after Logan Place of dying. Tim Drake gets back, though apparently he's doing a bunch of ideas. Oh yeah, and he withdraw his application from going to Ivy University. Yep. And they break back the Victim Syndicate. First time these characters have been seen since the second arc of James Tynion's run. So at least he waited a while to bring them back. Unlike, let's say, Dan Slott when they brought back Mr. Negative, he waited a few months. In the case of Tynion, when he did it, he waited almost an entire year to bring back the Victim Syndicate, which is nice. Now they do get rid of one of them. They don't kill her off. They actually cure her. Yeah, because each one of these people are victims of basically something indirectly Batman has caused. One, of course, is a woman named Gloria Griffith, who was kind of turned the way she is by Clayface. And Clayface actually turns against the Batman. And this is the last time, after this arc is over with, he supposedly dies. Yes, as you can see by the cover, yep, Batwoman is one responsible for apparently killing Clayface. I say apparently because he came back in the last issue of 10 Years Run. I know it's kind of a spoiler, but yeah, he came back alright. And also they briefly work with the Colony. Apparently Batwoman and Batwing and Azrael kind of briefly lead the Batmen. Yeah, this is something that kind of bugs me about the Strike Team. There is no official name for them at all. Also, Michael Atkins is now the mayor of Gotham City. I'm like, Michael Atkins, why does that name sound so familiar? Yes, it's the guy who replaced Jim Gordon as commissioner in the 2000s. A guy who was commissioner for roughly 6 years in the comics. Yes. Those who have read the crossover event War Games, yes, this was the guy who was commissioner of the GCPD during that period of time. It's not mentioned in his continuity if he ever was the commissioner of GCPD, but he is, in fact, the mayor of Gotham City, the brand new mayor, and his deputy mayor is Hamilton Hill Jr. Those who are familiar with Hamilton Hill from the comic, from the original continuity, the man was one of the most crookedest politicians ever in the history of DC Comics. This guy basically had like a bunch of like judges and whatever his back pocket. Yeah, and it's something though Batman never took this guy down. Probably because he knew that he would face wrath from the Gotham City government if he ever did that. Yeah, and he also apparently he found out about Batman's team. He doesn't have a really big problem with the team. He doesn't like it that Clayface, a convicted felon, is in the team. Oh yeah, and thinks that apparently he doesn't like it, and Clayface gives up the gauntlet thing he's been wearing since the start of 10 years run. Yeah, he takes it off and never wears it ever again. And he has turned full-blown evil. I have honestly no idea why Tina did this for me. First, he had it where Spoiler does something like this, and she does something a little wild. Now she does the Clayface? Yeah, I don't really know why he did this for. If I ever get a chance to meet him, I'm going to ask him about this. I should point out, though, the artwork is done by Joe Bennett, Michael McDia, and Eddie Barrows. I'm very happy to see Eddie Barrows doing this artwork. Also, this cover is done by the ever-awesome Gilliam March. Gilliam March was the long-running artist of Catwoman throughout the New 52 era of the comic book. Yeah, this artist did it for pretty much, from what I can tell, almost the entire 52-issue run. Which is nice, the fact the artist stayed on. Despite the fact book with like 5 different writers in 52 issues. Yep. Excuse me. Now there's hints they figure out who the first victim is, but they don't reveal in the storyline. I don't know. As far as I can tell, by the time 10 years left, they never figure out exactly who the first victim is. Yeah, and this other character who kind of looks like the Scarecrow. Nope, it's actually a former patient of his who actually became the Scarecrow, who becomes sort of a Scarecrow knockoff. There's actually a character named Dr. October, lovely woman with a white streak in her hair. Let me show her off here. Yeah, she's a character I think Tinif created, and she just recently just appears in here. Let's see if I can find a picture of her. A pretty good picture, mind you. Yeah, this is her. This is Dr. October. Lovely woman. Yeah. Also, at the start of the storyline, Tim reunites with Stephanie. First time because he just came back, and it's implied about half of the story that they apparently break up. It's never fully detailed that they do, and apparently also the victim thinking was working with Anarchy for some reason, and then he turns against them for some reason. Yeah, the whole thing with him was so bizarre, and it just seemed like Tinian had no idea what to do with Anarchy. That's what it felt like to me when I was reading this. Like after I finished reading this and after reading what he had been doing up until this point, it just seemed like that Tinian had no idea what to do with him. Heck, look at Azrael. The guy barely has contributed to this whole run. And Batwing has done a lot more than he has, and yet they're both on the team. I kind of wish Man-Bat was on the team. I'm glad that Azrael was added to this strike team because I like that. Yeah, and one of the most shockingest moments of this whole entire storyline is not just Batwoman killing Clayface, well, apparently killing, but Cassandra Cain, a woman a teenager who's grown very close to Clayface, kind of looks up to him as like a big brother because of her killing Clayface. She does the most shockingest thing I've ever seen Cassandra Cain ever do. She gets so angry at Batwoman, she rips off the bat symbol off her costume. Yeah, she rips off. Lucky enough, she's actually wearing Kevlar underneath because it's kind of weird for her not to wear underneath like the top part of her costume. So, yeah. No, Cassandra Cain is not a lesbian. She just did it because she's angry at Batwoman. She says, this symbol does not stand for killing. Which is indeed true because Batman doesn't kill people. Though he kind of has. Like in the Golden Age. Yeah. But this is a really good storyline. There were some things that, like I said, there's some things I like about it. Like Clayface turning bad. Anarchy, don't know what he was up to. I like the fact Victim Sneak was brought back in here, but they didn't resolve the plot thread of who the first victim was. Yeah, I have no idea who the heck this guy was. And, oh yeah, I should also point out, though, Batman tells Mary Atkins, stay out of my team's way. Though, when Chris Ventura did, he says, you know what I can do with your argument? You can shove it wherever you want to. That's basically how imply what he's saying. Really great storyline, and almost kind of a nice way to almost kind of a nice good little second to last storyline before it ends his really good run for this book. Though it seems like half the time for some of these characters, he had no idea what to do with these characters. It seems like the one character who's got a good amount of development this whole run is Cassie Cain. Yeah, I love her development, this whole entire storyline. The fact that Clayface was teaching her basically how to talk properly, which, why not? I thought that was ingenious for TNF to do, because Clayface is an actor. So who better to get to teach Cassie Kane how to talk properly than the guy who basically does it for a living? He doesn't teach it properly, but the guy's an actor. He's known for basically doing dialogue, which I thought was fantastic, the fact he was doing that. And now Cassie Kane was the only person he actually had. He did not want to hurt her at all, because Clayface was not in love with Cassie Kane. He was more like, he treated her like basically he was like his best friend / basically he has sort of like a big brother relationship with Cassie Kane. Yeah. Great book. Next up is Justice League Volume 6, The People vs. Justice League. Collecting Justice League Volume 2, issues 34 to 38. And those of you who, of course, know something different about this particular trade. How about the writer, Christopher frickin' Priest? And, of course, artwork by Pete Woods, who's a really good artist, by the way. Awesome to see the fact that Christopher Priest came back to the Justice League. First time since the 90s. When I heard that he was taking over at the Brian Hitch, I was like, thank you. You got rid of a crappy writer like Brian Hitch. I mean, his artwork is fantastic, but his storytelling is awful. I mean, he tells crappy stories. I mean, he's good at developing characters, but the stories were awful. Because they were boring, and it was just, like, a lot of the time, what was Justice League doing? Fighting random monsters. That's not the Justice League. That's like something else. That's not the Justice League. Here, you have the Justice League taking out someone called the Fan, who apparently is... and one thing I should point out, though, the way Pete Woods does the artwork in here, it's kind of like, believe it or not, kind of like the Deathstroke comic book. Yeah, see these like little dialogue things? Like, even the panel setup is so similar to that of Deathstroke. And this run was not very long. It was only like 10 issues. Yeah, this is the first of 2 trades that collect this run. Where Brian Hitch was on the book for a good 31 issues, though there was a couple issues he wasn't even part of, because that's about Gotham Resistance. I can't wait to review that, because I really like Dark Knight's Metal. Yeah, and at the end of the storyline, of course, it's like halfway through this major storyline, because the storyline, I think, wraps up with issue 43. Yeah, only a 10-issue run, and this only collects the first half of it. Yeah, and there's even a point where Wonder Woman her sword was used in a murder, and a cop is asking her full name, and she tells like Diana Themyscira, daughter of Hippolyta. Just, that's it. That's my name. Yes, that is actually her legal name. She does not have an actual last name. That's just basically of Themyscira, just her title. I love how Christopher Priest writes every single character in here. One thing I thought was really missing in Brian Hitch's run, though this was featured in filler issues, the Watchtower. Scenes on the Watchtower. I love the fact Christopher Priest threw this in here, because if you read his run for Task Force, he does feature their headquarters. And I love the fact he actually has scenes set in the Watchtower, because that was the big thing I thought was missing throughout Brian Hitch's run. It felt like, though, half the time the Justice League had no base of operations in their book, because Justice League are constantly on the ground. They're never going to space. Though nowadays they're in the Hall of Justice after Defense of No Surrender. Yeah, but this is one really good storyline. And it ends halfway through the storyline with Batman briefly stepping out, because he's leading basically 3 teams. They bring up his strike team from the Detective Comics, Justice League America, and of course this book here. Though, of course, the following storyline does kind of take place after the events of the Justice League series, Justice League America series, which I can't wait to get the final 2 trades of that. But this is fantastic. I kind of wish this run was longer, but I'm not sure why Christopher Priest only did 10 issues. Though Scott Snyder takes over the book, which, one thing, he's just a good writer as Christopher Priest. I've been Christopher Priest the past several years, and when I heard he was going to be the writer, I'm like, yes, a fantastic writer. And I actually read his entire Justice League run, his run for Justice League Task Force. It's a fantastic run. His run started with issue 20, and it wrapped up with the final issue of the series, which was issue 37. And he also did series like for DC in the early 90s, like The Ray, Which, no, he is not the he's actually not the creator of the Ray. That's actually Mark Waid. He created the Ray Terror Ray and, of course, Triumph. I give this book 9.5 out of 10. It's really damn good. I love it how he writes Superman here. I think the last time he wrote Superman was actually in Deathstroke. Yep. Wonder Woman, I think the last time he wrote Wonder Woman, off the top of my head, was probably back in the 90s. Barry Allen, first time I can think he's ever written the character. And in the case of, well, Simon, Jessica, and Cyborg, never wrote these characters before. But yeah, some of the stuff they do in here makes perfect sense, like just to be brought for a second meeting, trying to defend their actions. Which I think is great, the fact that they actually did that. Yep. 9.5 out of 10. Amazing. Can't wait for the next trade, which wraps up the storyline, by the way. Alright, so that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode, which is going to be episode number 682 and Doubleshot number 586. Okay? I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. So...